Hello, greetings from the Philippines. So my research is entitled Consolidating People's Voices for Participation in National Elections, Bridging Gaps Through Information and Communication Technology Initiatives, a basis for action research. My name is Kevin John Maddela and I am a graduate student of De La Salle University, Manila. The increasing demand and opinion of the masses has caught the attention of Philippine politics and seemingly emerges as a fundamental criterion of democracy recently. Contesting issues of oligarchy and elitism have been an issue coming from the popular opinion of the masses that wishes to eradicate a seemingly existing political approach in the aid of addressing the people's common needs. This perspective gave rise to the country's concept of populism. The contextualized account of populism in the country is based on the catering of political claims that give way to people's demands, and it is grounded to the analysis of cultural, discursive, and political conditions that makes the power of populist leaders to become legitimate. This is according to Webb and Curato. With this paper tries to reconcile the demands from the grounds of local governance to the higher echelons and intends to provide the platform of consolidating these populist opinions to further manifest a democratic type of government in an aid to withstand the growing issue of oligarchy and elitism, an issue that has been the reason to attack the Philippine government through various divisive propaganda and massive street protests. In addition to this paper also aims to emphasize the possibility of utilizing the information and communication tools or ICT as an opportunity to address the issue. This paper specifically aims to achieve the following objectives. One is to provide an idea of bridging populist demands to national governance. Two, to provide a tangible and considerable report for Commission on Elections, or the COMELEC, for its perusal and inspiring political candidates, most especially in national positions, as basis for their platform construction. And third, to explore the potential of ICT resources as a tool in consolidating these perceived gaps. As the researcher, I have selected the municipality of Solano to be the prototype locale of the study to explore the idea of building the concept of this research, its nature, its design, and to come up with tangible, ready-to-implement solutions. The municipality of Solano is a first-class municipality and a commercial center in the province of Nueva Vizcaya here in the Philippines. It is located in the northern Luzon area. According to the recent census, it has a population of 59,517 people. The ICT situation and disconnection in the Philippines could also be a critical component in the exploration of this study. Here in the Philippines, we are still confronted with the problems of resource distribution in the light of e-governance, which places the country itself under various issues of digital divide. This is best seen in rural areas or even on some localities outside Metro Manila. As such, a move to place ICT for building such development concept would be a springboard in achieving the holistic master plan, measure its efficiency in less ICT-driven areas, and expanding ICT resources, explore possibilities in addressing gaps of ICT, and provide inclusive participatory policy and decision-making as well as empowerment among the citizens. We would also like to highlight here some principles and the current trend of citizens' participation in terms of understanding the election participation in the country. While noting that majority of the Philippine voters are poor, most studies of Philippine elections posit that the elite have conventionally employed clientelism and political machines to secure the votes of the poor, thereby monopolizing public office and obstructing initiatives by the poor to act on behalf of their own interests. This is according to Kusaka. Other studies of social movements involving the poor also focus on voting behavior and explain support by the poor for specific politicians as a strategy to obtain various benefits, such as improved living infrastructure, land acquisition, suspension of forced demolitions, and so forth, and not necessarily because they are captive to clientelism. This is according to Caraus, Velasco, Kiba, and again, Kusaka. And for Schaffer, voter education has incurred a backlash from the poor, who view it as an attempt to impose on them the wealthy and middle classes' own notion of what democracy ought to be. In an interview conducted in the Commission on Elections in Solano, Nueva Vizcaya, several initiatives are identified and elaborated, both in the national and local level, as to how does the Commission engages with the citizens and how does it influences their participation in governance. On the intention of engagement, the emerging media audience was seen as an opportunity to cater political candidates in airing their platforms. The 2019 midterm elections, for example, as the Commission, although inalienable by its nature, partnered with various television network giants like ABS-CBN and GMA in catering candidates running for national posts. They are invited for various media campaigns and electoral fora. Such move is believed to create an impact even to the local government's voters. To connect to the local government units, the party system strategy was the opportunity to connect to local citizens by means of small caucuses. On voters' education, maximized campaigns against vote buying were done, guided by the Omnibus Election Code and Fair Elections Act. The COMELEC, Solano, also emphasized their initiative of partnering with several barangays and establishing strategic locations and public schools to connect to the new voters and young citizens. To be technically efficient on these initiatives, the Commission partnered with the local Department of Interior and Local Government or the DILG for assistance. From what it is perceived, the lack of airing local clamors and limited technical assistance with DILG manifests the research issue of gap in terms of bridging realistic populist concerns to governance. In this research, the illustration of the gap is presented. It is another thing to look into addressing these populist opinions, disregarded but realistic, spaceless but existing, and vocal demands that should be considered in national government framework and legislations. Political candidates play a vital role and are demanded to see this perceived problem towards connecting to the masses, most especially in learning towards populist platforms and approach. As you may have noticed in the illustration, the citizens' feedback or local citizens' response is problematic and somehow vague or missing, which is a vital component in the process of communications in terms of expressing their demands in the national elections. Therefore, it is a critical point for it to be evaluated in this paper, and several recommendations will be presented in this research. In addition to this, efforts of voters' education will be further strengthened. The issues of vote buying and corruption will be mitigated and be strictly monitored as it intends to listen to the masses on their perspective of democracy, including their honest views and demands to governance. In a way, it will try to reconcile populist concerns to be on the plate of the legislator's agenda as well as on the framework of the respective government agencies, depending on what populist concerns are expressed. It is also an opportunity to correct populist misconceptions in governance by means of establishing further voters' knowledge and awareness or further widening the scope of voters' education efforts to empower the citizens as an inevitable part of a democratic form of government. In this presentation, we have here the proposed model for steps on consultation and ICT survey in various barangay levels. Again, the barangay level here is understood as the smallest local government unit or the smallest government unit in the Philippine government, where local citizens or the local actors can be part of it. With this, we identified actors, potential actors, with their critical roles in their participation to the governance or in the framework that is designed here in this study. Basically, we have here 6 steps. First is the data collection, and then report construction, and then endorsement to executive and legislature. We have step number 4 is endorsement to political candidates, monitoring, and evaluation. Guided by these steps, we identified actors, particularly the local citizens here, which is specified, and the LGU COMELEC or the Commission on Elections, and how do they will be part of this step-by-step process, including what would be the specific action they should undertake as recommended by yours truly, the researcher, and how will they do it. So let's go over them one by one. So from step 1 to step number 6, in terms of the local citizens, they are recommended to participate in consultation and then avail the summary of reports. And then going directly to step number 5, they are recommended to monitor relevant platforms with the political candidates and joining the feedback process. And another one will be the LGU COMELEC as the facilitator in partnership with possible ICT resources or ICT experts in the conduct of this research, guided by the 6 processes. Their role as LGU COMELEC, or the role as the local commission, is very critical in terms of accommodating or achieving these steps by means of, first, the introduction of ICT survey database, wherein there's a possible partnership among ICT institutions and experts. There's a provision of report summary, and then feedback report from citizens' concerns respective to various executive agencies, like for example the road problems people might encounter that is to be addressed to the Department of Public Works and Highways. And then going with the endorsement to political candidates, we have here several endorsements from the LGU itself. And we have the same process of monitoring relevant platforms and evaluating the platforms proposed for implementation. And the local would be the barangay jurisdictions. As you may have heard, we use a particular or a prototype local government, which is the municipality of Solano. Here, this could be adopted wherein it is in the jurisdiction of barangay levels and even the concerned municipality. And government offices of the concerned municipality could be the specific area for the possibility of endorsement to executive and legislature. And then, same concerned municipalities and barangay jurisdictions can be part of the step number 4, step number 5, and step number 6 process, which is the endorsement, monitoring, and evaluation. And then the last part will be the how. In this 6 processes, it is recommended that there should be a scheduled barangay citizens consultation, and then the provision of statistical report and analysis via ICT tools or technology analytics. With this, there's a provision of summary report for endorsements, and then the provision of available public documents for candidates perusal, for transparency, and for local citizens checking. And then there's the step number 5. Again, the step number 5 is monitoring. There's an online ICT-aided survey that could be a springboard for the Counting Citizens Poll, which is the participation summary via ICT tools. Then assessing of platforms introduced via the data analytics being mentioned via ICT resources. And then the assessing responsive candidates by means of the media advertisement and other forms of campaigns. With this, as a holistic approach as presented in the paper or the presented paper in this conference, there's an interaction and there's an intent of addressing the gaps wherein local citizens and the further role of the COMELEC is being shown, or there's a designed tool of approach where local citizens and COMELEC could act together in terms of airing their concerns and bridging these demands, this populist concept of demands, to the legislatures, even reaching the national posts. By means of these recommended solutions, there's an interaction between these critical actors to address the gap, basically. You may check this specific matrix in the presented paper for further evaluation and analysis. This is presented here before you for you to have a run-through or preview of what we are discussing here in this presentation. The pursuit of emphasizing the gap between populist demands and national democratic governance has been the underlying issue of this research. This paper tries to reconcile the possibility of bridging these local demands to be acknowledged in the various democratic frameworks, most especially in the national level. In the discussion, a possibility has been shown with the inclusion of ICT resources to empower local citizens in their participation, of sharing their piece to national legislations, as well as the integrating an ICT strategy to accommodate these various demands. For this research, a lot has still to be realized. This is most especially on the fact that the researcher also intends to further explore ideas and concepts, as this paper could be a springboard into coming up with more realistic solutions. In connection to this, there are a lot of realities to be acknowledged. For one, the reasons for gaps really exist, and therefore we conclude that these gaps are evident or real. This roots back from the cry of the populist communities or local communities unheard or ignored. We also see that some Comelec initiatives are one-way approach in nature, but on the other end, such populist demands and opinions are possible opportunities for dialogue, consultation, coordination, and collaboration with other agencies, including the non-government organizations or NGOs and private institutions. It is also noteworthy that to acknowledge such end is not to the extent of alienating the COMELEC in terms of its decision and integrity. Lastly, given the situation alongside the aforementioned realities, it is high time to establish and rebuild strategies for ICT inclusion even to the rural communities. Could be a springboard to widen the work of e-governance in the country. This would empower LGUs, regardless of level or form, for ICT development. These various perceived problems and opportunities, advantages and disadvantages should be emphasized to start working on a concept of a holistic participation in democratic governance. This includes the vast populist demands from local communities, while we look forward to empowering every citizen, not only the institutions and its actors in our pursuit of effective governance and development. That ends my presentation. Thank you very much.